It's funny because this morning, before coming back to filming, I was actually watching the last video I had uploaded to YouTube. And it's funny to me, actually, how much changed almost immediately after I uploaded that video. Uh, but, however it goes, one of the things that I thought was absolutely cool about that video is a lot of the things that changed had to do with things I was saying in the video. And I just love how much by saying those things out loud, it like really helped me to become more assertive, and it helped me to like personally commit myself to those ideas of like not calling and talking to people so often and not feeling guilty about it, because it is what I have to do and what I'm deciding I'm going to do regardless of how anybody else feels about it. So yeah, it was incredibly empowering, and I'm so excited for the progress I've made, even since like the 2 or 3 weeks since I made that last video. And one of those things was the ignoring people thing, is what I wrote down on my list. But it's like, I've been so caught up in being busy that I've kind of been just like not getting back to people all the time. But the more I've been doing that, the more I love it. The more I'm like, why have I spent so much of my life responding to people constantly? Like, I get a message and immediately respond. I'm so sick of that, and I'm going to stop doing that with like everybody. More and more, I want to move to this like, just stay focused in my present life. And it's funny because I've still been spending time with people physically here in Siloam. Like, I go hang out, we have game nights, and I hang out with Mariah. I love watching movies and talking with her. And I don't need more than that for the most part. Except for the part, where I get really invalidated hanging around some people who are Christian. But then I just make 1 or 2 calls long distance to Swati or Timo, and then I'll be fine. But yeah, that's a good segue though into something else that has happened, which is that within the last few weeks, as I've been becoming a lot more focused and more determined, for the first time, so this last weekend, something incredible happened. And by last weekend, I mean a week ago, because it's now another weekend. But all week I've been saying last weekend, or this last weekend. Now I would say last weekend, as opposed to this last weekend. Saying this last weekend on the weekend feels weird. Anyway, last weekend, I had this incredible, like, internal emotional change, as I've been moving toward trying to get a YouTube channel off the ground. I've struggled immensely with this feeling that it was never actually going to happen. In my mind, I was convinced that it would, but, like, emotionally, I didn't believe it. And it's generally a process I have to go through with almost everything, where, like, first I have to intellectually, logically recognize that something is possible and true, and then I have to kind of follow through with it consistently before my emotions will eventually come to believe that this thing actually is possible, as opposed to just my imagination. And that happened this last weekend, where, like, for so much of my life I've felt that there are things that other people do, and I'm not one of the people who does those things. And it's been exciting for a number of things in my adult life that have happened. Like, going to college and actually graduating. That was something that I felt like other people do that I would surely never actually do, and I did it. I studied abroad. That was one of those things, like traveling to other countries. Even going to Ecuador, like both of those trips for Ecuador and Lithuania. Before they happened, I was like, there's no way these are actually going to happen. Traveling and going to other countries is something other people get to do, but, like, I don't. And so this is another thing that I've encountered, and it's incredible because I'm so excited to get this going. And this last weekend, when I finally believed it, it was this huge movement forward inside of me, and it's not just about my YouTube channel, but it's kind of this, like, general change in understanding about myself that I have what it takes to make things happen. And that's incredible to me because one of the insecurities I've been wrestling with the most this last year is feelings of like incompetent and like, oh, I'm not a hard worker and I don't do hard things. And I think I've been feeling that way because I've been in situations where I wasn't being given the opportunity to use my strengths. And it's not so much like an excuse, but no matter how much you try to force yourself to do things that you're just horrible at, there's a certain level where like you can persevere and you can get so far, but you're not going to feel good about it. Like, it's really, really hard to feel good about doing something that you're absolutely sucking at. And, you know, maybe as you get older and you go through more experiences and you develop a stronger intuition for what you are and aren't good at, then you don't feel as bad when you don't do as great at the things you're not good at. But earlier on, and especially having insecurities about not measuring up to the arbitrary expectations of success and discipline that society kind of constructs through expectations of academic performance or job performance. The train of thought just disappeared on me again. I hate when that happens. Anyway, there are these arbitrary standards and like it's been really hard for me not to feel incompetent for being unable to meet those. But for the first time ever, as I'm proving to myself that I'm capable of following through with something when I actually care about it and I'm invested in it and I work hard and I come home and I don't just like sit around and do nothing. Like, I get home and I'm excited to like make more progress and make more stuff happen. And I wake up on a Saturday morning and the first thing I want to do is I want to get over and record my next video. Like, there's no hesitation, there's no dragging of the feet. And it's an incredible feeling inside of me. And that feeling convinced me that this is certain, like almost certainly going to happen. There's no way I'm not going to get a YouTube channel going. And that's so incredibly exciting for me to emotionally believe that it's more now a matter of like when, it's a matter of the strategy I decide to take, but it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. And part of why I'm so convinced that it's a matter of when and not if is because the more excited I get about my YouTube channel and making money doing something other than my 9 to 5, the more I like despise and hate my 9 to 5, which I definitely have to be careful with. I have been struggling this last week with not just being incredibly impatient while I'm at work and wanting to get home. I'm going to have to find some kind of like healthy internal balance because some of the impatience is good because that's what's driving me. That like discontentment is why when I get home I'm so driven to try to get stuff done. And I don't want to lose that. But at the same time, I feel like it might take me a little bit longer than I'm hoping to get my YouTube channel going. And that means I might have to stay in a 9 to 5 type job for longer than I want to. And I don't want to just be miserable the whole time. I want to be able to still focus and do a good job while I'm at work and to feel some degree of like happiness and being present mentally and in the moment while I'm at work and not just like spending 40 hours a week wishing I was somewhere else. But we'll see how it goes. I'm extremely excited about this kind of like internal shift I've seen inside of me. And that leads to another point I wanted to talk about, which is that shift inside of me has made me the happiest I have ever been in my entire fucking life. And I was describing this to a friend the other night. We met up to talk, and I was explaining how I've slowly over the last year been like discovering the realization about how happiness in life doesn't correlate to having things like money and fame. And I mean like emotionally understanding that, not the like intellectual. Of course everybody's like, oh yeah, of course those things don't bring happiness, but the funny thing is mostly I'll still live as if they will. And so I've been like slowly kind of learning how to like find happiness in my everyday life, mostly through changing my everyday life, but not through like having more money or doing things that other people see that they like. None of that ever translates into happiness. What has made me happy is being more assertive, telling other people no, being more disciplined with my money, being more disciplined with my diet, being more disciplined with my time. Like, finding ways to get those under control makes me incredibly happy in my daily life because it makes me feel in control. And feeling in control, for me, leads to being happy. And I'm not talking about control in an unhealthy way where you try to control things that are outside of your control. You can never control other people. You can never control the weather. You can't control how life just kind of throws curveballs all the time, like the coronavirus or things like that. But the more you can, like, become in control of yourself and, like, encounter life with, like, a determination to persevere and to try, like, for me, that's where I'm deriving more happiness than I've ever had. And even though recently I've had a few, like the whole beginning of this video talked about, like, moments of feeling extremely lonely and invalidated, overall, like, those are just, like, a few dips here and there, but overall, I'm pretty consistently happy these days, and it feels incredible. And for a lot of my Christian friends, this might seem kind of insulting almost, but I was talking to someone the other day who also used to be a Christian, and it makes me laugh because in my conversation with them, I mentioned, I was like, I would rather go back to being a Christian than to go back to being insecure. And in that conversation, I was specifically talking about being socially insecure and feeling really self-conscious around other people, feeling like other people don't like me, and that mattering. And I have to say that, like, for me, becoming a happy person has been all about becoming somebody that I like. It has nothing, and who I like is actually, like, clashes a lot with what other people like and want. Because other people want, like, a self-confident, caring, loving person, but the cultural understandings of what that look like is completely off. And the ways that you have to act for people to think you're confident are actually kind of in stark contrast to how you actually act when you are confident. And so people who, like, if you're trying to gain the approval of other people and you want other people to think that you're confident and other people to think that you're humble and other people to think that you're loving and caring, a lot of the times the way you're going to behave in order to elicit that response from other people is not actually those things. And that makes it incredibly difficult to actually do those things, because a self-confident person knows who they are and they know how they feel, and they organize their life around that, and when other people throw a fit about it, they don't care. That's what being confident is. But other people are throwing a fit about it. So, like, other people say they want you to be self-confident, but then when you are, you'll usually actually end up upsetting a lot of people. But, like, once you become confident, then upsetting people doesn't matter so much. And that's going to take me a long time to really integrate, because if there's one thing I hate, well, I have a few things at the top of my list that I despise with a deep burning passion, but upsetting people is one of them. I hate upsetting people. But more and more, as I'm becoming more assertive and more self-confident, like, that's what makes me happy. Like, I don't care how much money I'm making. I don't care if YouTube ever becomes, like, this huge source of income for me. If all of my dreams about traveling and starting these, big companies to change things in the world in these certain ways, if those things never happen, like, I'll be fine. Being self-confident makes me so happy on a daily basis. I'm to the point where it's like, I don't need anything else to be happy. And that feels great. Like, it feels incredible. And it just keeps going up. Like, I felt this way a few months ago, but I'm even happier now than I was a few months ago. And I feel like it's just like I become more disciplined, and I become more self-confident, and I become more assertive. And the more those things happen, the more I'm happy on like a moment-by-moment basis throughout my life. And that just feels absolutely incredible. Feeling emotionally in control of myself, being in tune with my emotions, knowing how I feel. And Anyway, I'm done with that rant for now. I just wanted to say, there's still definitely a number of hiccups in my life that are smoothing themselves out, and life will always have hiccups and down moments, but overall, I am extremely satisfied with my life, more than I've ever been in my whole life, and it feels incredible to feel incredible, let me tell you. And feeling incredible is... Okay, I do want to finish off with this. I was even trying to make a video about this, and maybe I will at some point. But I just want to put this. It would be really easy for you watching this video to be like, oh wow, good for you, Nehemiah, and feel like I'm almost like gloating or bragging. And obviously, if you don't like your life and you're really struggling, then it might even induce like feelings of like resentment or frustration at me for like, oh, you have so much and I have so little. But the thing that I want you to understand, if you don't understand anything else that I talk about in this whole video, is that I got myself here. And it's so funny how we so much of the time hear people who become rich or successful talk about how they worked hard to become rich or successful. And when it comes to being rich, you can make arguments all day about how I don't agree with them necessarily in their entirety, but you can try to make a pretty, convincing argument that people who became rich, that there were tons of things at play that were outside of their control, and that the system was set up for them to succeed, and it wasn't as much in their hard work as they might otherwise say. But I absolutely promise you that when it comes to being happy, there's absolutely nothing anybody else can do to make you happy that is so completely within your control. Because there are things that you need from other people to become happy. It's going to be incredibly difficult to become happy without having some kind of like close, trusting relationships with certain people in your life, and having access to not having access, like there are certain things that you need in order to like have stability in your life and to be happy. Certain kinds of stress that you might have to work pretty hard to remove. But the thing is, those are things that are always going to be within your control. Like, being happy isn't about choosing to be happy. Being happy is about creating a strategy for making your life the way that will make you happy. So you have to, I guess you're going to have to understand what makes human beings actually happy, and then figure out how to integrate those things into your life. But of course, money and success aren't going to be those things. People liking you, not going to work. Having people follow you on social media, still kind of people liking you. It's not going to make you happy. The things that make human beings happy are being self-confident and feeling good about yourself, and doing things that mean something to you and that you enjoy. So if you want to be happy, you need to work on yourself. That takes a ton of time and energy and effort. I've been doing that for years, and it's somewhat natural for me to do that. So, maybe that's just like a blessing or a gift that I've been given, and for that I am extremely grateful. But regardless of whether it's natural for me or not it's natural for anybody else, things like counseling, things like finding people in your life that you can actually be open and honest and vulnerable with about what you actually feel. People who will let you feel the way that you feel. And being honest and confronting the parts of yourself that you don't like, and finding ways to become somebody that you do like. Those are going to be the steps to becoming happy. And That's why people can become rich and famous and still hate their lives, because if they don't like themselves, if they have all of this like emotional trauma and damage from their past, and they're not confronting that, and they're not overcoming that and finding a way to move past that, they're never going to be happy. And yeah. So anyway, if you're not happy, if you don't super enjoy your life, I would always encourage people by starting out by finding a way to process your emotions, whether that's counseling or friends or both. Always an incredible place to start. And as soon as you start processing your emotions, as soon as you can identify how you feel, and you can identify which things in your life make you feel a certain way, then you can begin the process of identifying, well, which things in my life make me feel ways I don't like to feel, and what are some like practical, tangible steps I can take to remove those things from my life. And you might not be able to remove all of them, but each individual little thing that you remove has a lot more impact than you think. And I think maybe what I'm realizing with myself is that it becomes this like snowball where like there are things that you might not have control over right now that are contributing to like stress and unpleasant experiences in your life that you'd rather not be having. But if you find one small little thing somewhere in your life that you have control over, that you can change or you could remove or add to your life, that will create either positive experiences or remove negative experiences. If you just work on that one really small thing until it's like a permanent feature in your life now, that thing is either gone or that this positive thing is now there, that will change a lot more than you think, because it will like have a compounding effect. And so like as soon as you get that one done, then you like move on to another one, and then you move on to another one, and then as your self-confidence grows, as your like feelings of self-efficacy and control of yourself grow, then some of those things that used to be outside of your control can now actually start coming to being within your control. Like, one example I'd actually even use with myself right now is that a year ago, there's no way I would have ever been able to actually start a YouTube channel. And there was no way I would have ever been able to manage being self-employed, which like I'm not right now, but hopefully I'll be there soon. But that means that being in a stressful 9-to-5 job where someone else is telling me what to do and is stressing me out, and it was, really grinding on a lot of my insecurities, like, that was a really stressful situation for me to be in. That was making certain parts of my life really miserable. And I couldn't just quit my job because I needed to pay the bills. And at the time, I wasn't sure what options I had for other jobs. And especially the frustrating thing is that when you're super stressed, it makes it really hard for you to be creative and have ideas about other things that you might do. But during that season, I was still, I was talking to my friends, and I would go to counseling sometimes, or I'd get coaches sometimes. And I made a lot of progress in understanding myself and my emotions. And as I became more self-confident, then it came to a point in my life where I realized a way that I could fix that. And I fixed it by switching jobs. I got a new job. That was a lot less stressful. And once I got that job that was a lot less stressful, it freed me up at home to be creative and to start working on YouTube stuff. And now the combination of my increased confidence and the time I have at home to kind of mess around and be creative and watch YouTube videos about how to make YouTube videos, I'm now in a position where I might be able to become self-employed and not have to work a 9-to-5 anymore, which would be incredible and will contribute a lot to my happiness, I think. I think not working a 9-to-5 job will be great. And it's like I'm incredibly happy already, and it's not that I can't be happy and have a 9-to-5 job. But it's this strange process where I'm extremely happy, but I think I could become even more happy. But I'm have such a strong level of happy as it is, because just self-confidence itself is a very strong backbone for happiness in my life. But then when I go to work, I'm still kind of like a bit frustrated and annoyed that I'm not using my mind to be creative and to share positive ideas with the world. And so if I'm working a job where that's what I'm doing, like, that'll be incredible. Not because anybody's paying attention to me, but because sharing ideas is an experience that I enjoy. So if I can spend all week having experiences where I'm sharing ideas, to me that's so much better than every day going and doing, building cabinets or making ice cream. So, yeah. Anyway, this is getting kind of long. I'm just kind of ranting at this point. But hopefully, I don't know. I'll make videos about this stuff. I'm verbally processing. This is still just a verbal processing video. This isn't supposed to be like condensed or exact or anything. So, those are actually most of the things. I started buying stocks recently, which I think that has actually contributed to my confidence around my YouTube channel, because stocks are another one of those things that have felt distant and like other people do that stuff. So when I started buying stocks and I watched these YouTubers who are buying stocks, and then I'm becoming the kind of person who does stuff. I'm being proactive. I'm like, getting my hand in the game. And that's been like really exciting for me. I love that. So like buying the stocks also to me represents the money I've saved up, which is also extremely exciting, because saving up money for me is a step toward not living paycheck to paycheck my whole life, which is another thing that I really want for my life. And yeah. Yep. Super excited. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. Another part of my growing confidence, again, it's incredible how the snowballs and so many things start coming all at once. On top of being pretty disciplined with... Man, saying disciplined is probably a really bad way of putting it. It's like... I think thinking about it as being disciplined has actually been a hindrance rather than a help up to this point. Because I think, when I think of discipline, I think about, like, forcing myself to do stuff that I hate. And I don't know how much... I've been, like, debating this in my mind all week, and, like, I'm sure I'll have more thoughts about it at some point in the future. But for right now, I'm actually kind of, like, really skeptical of that idea. I honestly think that, like, an actual healthy human being is somebody who finds something that they really like and they work hard at that. And I think that's very, very different than this idea of discipline, where it's like forcing yourself to do things that you hate. And I have this really hard time not feeling like that's what people like Goggins are saying. And maybe that's not what they're saying. I'm just misunderstanding them. And I'm hearing what they say through the lens of experiences I've had, where my sense of not being disciplined came from my struggle to get homework turned in on time in school, or my not pushing myself physically when I was in track. But I think that the thing I've noticed in my life recently, the reason so many of these things have been compounding recently, is because when I find a way to frame things in my life in such a way that, like, I see them as something I want rather than as something that I have to do or I should do, then it becomes way easier to do them. But then doing them makes me feel happy, and feeling happy makes doing them easier. This is just turning into like a really long ranting video, but again, that's fine, because this just kind of, it's helpful for me, like that last video. So, no, so the thing with food is that, like, at first, it was kind of hard. I've been trying to, like, change my diet for a few years now. Ever since I took the wellness class at JBU, I've become a lot more self-conscious about exercise and my diet and how those affect my mind and body. And I've tried so many times to change, and it's been really hard. And one of the reasons it's really hard is because diet and exercise are such a like complex part of life because we like constantly encounter it everywhere. And we have so many deeply ingrained habits around those things that go all the way back to growing up. And changing any of those is extremely hard. So I would like try to change different things, but I could never really like, I never felt like I was making progress. But I was making progress. And the progress I was making is that familiarity makes things way easier. So part of what's really hard at the beginning is just being extremely unfamiliar. You walk into the store, you have absolutely no clue what you should or shouldn't buy. You have absolutely no clue what's good for you or bad for you. You have no idea what to buy, and you have no idea how to cook it. And despite my feelings of not making a lot of progress the last number of years, I've made tons of progress in the last number of years because every time I would go into the store and I would be thinking about like, oh, I don't know what to buy or what to buy, I would go home and I would end up looking up stuff. And even though I felt like I wasn't remembering most of the time because I was being overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information, over time, the more and more I've exposed myself to it, the more and more familiar I've become. And I feel like within the last few months especially, it's finally started to like have huge impacts because suddenly I've exposed myself so much to food. I've become so familiar with food ingredients. I've become so familiar with where things are in the grocery store. And I've become a lot more familiar with like cooking myself different things in the kitchen, that it's a lot easier for me now more than ever in my life to like go to the store, know what to look for and to buy it and then to bring it home and then to eat it. And one of the challenges with changing diet is just like part of wanting to eat bread and sugar. Those are things that like really hard to remove from the diet for just like pleasure reasons. Like those are just so great to eat. And so there's always the temptation to eat those things, and they're everywhere, so it's easy to go out and buy them. And overcoming that temptation is in and of itself really hard. But once all those other things are taken care of, and it becomes like a habit to go buy certain groceries and to just eat them, it becomes a lot easier to overcome those temptations. And I'm just so incredibly excited, because over the last number of weeks, I have been more consistent than ever with like, I've been eating a lot of eggs and grass-fed organic meats and organic vegetables. For the most part, that's all I've been eating. And it feels great. Just like day after day after day, I'm just like eating vegetables and meat. And I'm not eating sugar and I'm not eating bread. And the consistency blows my mind. There's like, I've tried for so long and it's made me feel like I would never get anywhere with it. But I'm getting somewhere with it, and that makes me happy. That makes me feel incredible about myself. To go to the grocery store and to check out and look in my bag, or like my, cart, and to just see like just vegetables, like it feels so good. Like, of course, I don't ever feel like I'm superior to other people, and I don't, ever want to like judge anybody. But it's so hard not to just kind of feel like this weird sense of pride in the I'm better than you kind of way when I'm like checking out, and to be like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm better than anybody. And like, it's so funny. I'm being so brutally honest right now. These are the kind of things that like I actually feel that I never tell anybody, because people react to them and try to assume things about me that aren't true. Because I know how I feel, and putting it into words can make it sound like something different than how I actually feel. But however it goes, it's funny to me, but it's just like, it's a very, very positive feeling to be checking out and to be like, everything in this grocery basket I know is healthy for me. That's an incredible feeling. And yeah. And just like not feeling ashamed, not feeling like anybody's gonna be like, oh, what do you have in your basket? 'Cause you're in a public place, and just like, I feel like there's this strange, kind of like I referred to in my last video, there's this weird like undertone around food and diet in the US, and when you're in the grocery store, I feel like you're really self-conscious about what other people think about the things that you're buying. So I don't know, it's interesting and funny, but I feel incredible about food in my life. Exercise is one of the next things I want to tackle, although I have a feeling that one won't get tackled in its entirety until I'm not working a 9-to-5 job anymore. And it's one of the reasons I want to quit a 9-to-5 job, because I want to have time to exercise in my life. But yeah, however it goes. I think that's pretty much everything. Well, I guess the one other thing is I changed the setup. I guess I commented on that at the beginning, but I love my new setup. It feels incredible. Yeah. So I think that's all for now. Okay, one last thing. Sorry if I got your hopes up that the video was over. No, I'm kidding. The one last thing that I wanted to talk about, and I didn't write this down, but I'm kind of like having trouble with impatience in getting my YouTube channel up and running, and that impatience causes me to constantly go back and forth between where I should focus my energy in terms of making videos. Because if I try to plan and regularly upload videos like this, where I'm just talking, that takes a lot of time. And then I'm like, well, I shouldn't just be making random videos. I should be putting all of my time and energy into making the videos that are going to be really carefully made and that are going to get a lot of attention. But then I'm like, oh, those are going to take forever and I need to make other videos in the meantime. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with that emotion of impatience. I'm not sure. It's incredibly frustrating how little time I feel like I have during the week to work on this stuff after getting back from work, and like the weekend feels so incredibly short. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm really strongly feeling like my philosophy of everything and invitation to leave the faith are probably going to be my two first major videos that I make. But then I've also had ideas about trying to make some smaller videos. But it's like I want to make those videos first because my philosophy of everything is going to be the foundation for like every other video I make. And so I just really want that out there. So anybody who watches my videos can always refer back to that as like baseline. So I kind of want to just get that video done. So yeah. I have this Word document that's just like filled with all the ideas I've had within the last week or two of all the ideas. And I have so many ideas, and I have more ideas on my wall. So it's like I'm never going to run out of ideas. I just need to figure out I just need to pick a few and just really follow through and get them done. And then I'll really get this thing off the ground. So yeah. Anyway, I think that really is all for now then. It's 11 a.m. on Saturday. I'm excited to work on this video, get it uploaded, and then spend the rest of my time working on probably my philosophy of everything video, because that's a video I really do want to get done and get published. So, yep. If you're watching this, thanks for watching, I guess. Hopefully the stuff that I talked about was useful to you, and I'll catch you later. Adios.